Just to get things started, and what do you think people had in mind that it was going to evolve to? Anybody want to get on stack?
So Tristan first.
Well, I've got a few hypotheses. I'm not exactly sure what the role of the occupation of public space is in relation to the revolution, but I'm pretty sure it's important. Maybe it has something to do with declaring a perimeter. You know, a safer space, a occupation, kind of like, you know, when the military comes in and occupies someplace, but, you know, except pepper sprays on us this time. You know, I think a few good environments to occupy would be foreclosed homes. I think it's the first step. Like, it's step number 2, basically.
Okay, next on stack we have Zoe, I believe.
I guess I have to take this off. So kind of people had been protesting Wall Street for a while, and normally what would happen was that they would have a protest for a couple days, but what actually happened with Occupy Wall Street was they actually promoted it as a day of rage on Wall Street, but it actually happened on a Saturday. So they had a General Assembly, and they're like, well, instead of just, you know, protesting on Saturday, like, why don't we just stay here till Monday? And people are like, yeah, like, let's just stay here until Monday. And so they stood there until Monday, and next thing you know, people are living in the park. People around the world are sending them pizzas. And that's how they came with their little cardboard box signs. It's from the pizza boxes that people all around the world sent them. And what had happened in the months leading up to Occupy Wall Street was that a lot of activists from Spain and across Europe who had been very instrumental in helping to organize Indignados, which is also known as Real Democracia Ya, had been very instrumental in helping put together this protest. And I think, to everyone's surprise, it really struck a chord. There was maybe like the second week into it, like at first, like hundreds and hundreds of people showed up, and then the police showed up, and there was only, I think in the second or third week, there was only 60 people in the park, and everyone thought that the movement was going to die. But what happened is it's just blossomed into this really incredible, amazing thing where people finally have hope that, you know, there can be change and they can make the world a better place.
Put myself on stack next, so I guess. So I think there's an interesting kind of historical perspective here. Sometime, you know, you read about the American Revolution, and it sounds really great, right? Government of, by, and for the people. It sounds awesome, and the stuff that people wrote back then was awesome. And you look at the laws back then, and they were pretty simple. You know, they tried to make them as simple as possible. And then somehow we end up in this mess that we're in now, where in order to successfully get anything done in court, you have to have a lot of money. And so justice is not administered fairly anymore. It's administered basically to the people who can afford to pay for attorneys. You see this happening all the time now in like the tech sector where I work. You see small startups innovating getting shut down by patent lawsuits, which are completely frivolous, but it would cost so much to litigate the lawsuit that they can't afford to do it, so they get shut down. Money has become speech in politics, but also in the justice system. So the Occupy idea kind of taking back public space for public use. Like, why can't we just go chill out in a public park? I mean, if the park's owned by the city is the citizens, what's the problem with us being there after dark? Or what's the problem with us setting up tents there? And the answer is this kind of huge Byzantine system of laws that's gotten encrusted onto the Constitution since the time that this country was founded. And somewhere along the line, things went wrong, and public spaces stopped being for the public. They started being for select groups of people, maybe white people, maybe males, maybe people that paid more taxes, maybe people that had attorneys that could get them permits. And so I think it's really about that, taking, okay, well, the state is supposed to be made up of the people, right? So it's supposed to be for the people. and it hasn't been acting that way. So I think that's a big historical part of why the Occupy movement has been so successful and continues to be so successful, is because this resonates with people. Wait, you mean, yeah, that is kind of messed up. I can't go to the park after dark. It's my park, right?
Okay, I'm going to read the number again. Call in if, and then we have a video of Susie and Steve talking. The number to talk to us is 813-977-6800. Once again, 813-977-6800. So we have a video. So I guess we're going to play that.
Hi, my name is Susan Shannon. I live at 2711 West North B Street. I want to address the Clean Zone Ordinance, so-called. First of all, I did hear Mayor Buckhorn say that it is his job to protect the police, which I find extremely bizarre. I thought it was the police's job to protect the public. If we're passing this ordinance to protect the police, we really need to take another look at it, because it's those of us who are protesting who are at risk here. The fact is, the streets are going to be filled with people. How are you going to tell this group of 50 from that group of 50? The insurance clause, the 1 hour time frame, all of those are just absurd in the face of what's actually going to be happening in this city. And I want to address the naivete of the idea that there are not Asian provocateurs, that the Tampa Police Department is a well-behaved police force to a person, and that we are not at risk from them. I tell you that we are. We have had people charged with crimes they have not committed. We have had the police officers, I've seen it myself, drop people off at Occupy Tampa who are mentally deranged, and in order to create dissent amongst us. I have also heard from a member of the Sheriff's Department that they had us infiltrated from the start. So I do not buy the story that we have no harm due to us from the police. They're, you know, maybe it's one or two, and maybe it's all of them. I don't know. But it's the citizens who are supposed to be protected. I'm a taxpayer. I can't go into any city parks now because I tried to exercise my free speech rights. Where are my rights?
So that video was our wonderful Susie talking about the Clean Zone, which is something that Mayor Buckhorn is attempting to push through City Council. This upcoming Thursday is going to be the workshopped version. We had pushed really hard for them to push it back. But so we have people on stack to talk about this.
Information.
It's actually May 3rd.
Oh, it's May 3rd. It's not this
And
Thursday. It's next Thursday.
It's next Thursday, and the public comments are starting at 8:30, and people are going to be protesting at 8 a.m. It's on, I believe it's East 310 Kennedy Boulevard, the old Tampa City Council. And all meetings are open and free to the public, and you can talk.
Okay, so we have a stack. David is next on stack.
I was going to continue talking a little bit about history, but I guess I'll just relative to what we just saw, just point out that that's one of the things that Occupy Tampa has accomplished recently. We had a really good showing. Obviously, Susie was our standout, but we had a lot of other people there as well, and we're able to, by sort of pushing back a little bit, obviously we don't get sole credit. There were a lot of other citizens of Tampa who were there expressing their opposition to this law, but it was something that we were pretty happy with the outcome of. And then I had originally wanted to address the question of history and one other dimension. Zoe mentioned Los Indignados in Spain and some of the original ideas for occupation coming from there. There is also a longer history in the United States of organizing along the lines that came to define Occupy. So things like consensus and the process that we just described came out of movements starting in the 1990s that included the anti-globalization movement that culminated with what's now known as the Battle of Seattle in 1999, and also institution building, so a variety of collectively run info shops and bookstores across the United States, cooperative housing, which we now have developing from within Occupy Tampa as well. And all of that is sort of interesting with regard to Florida because there was not that much of that sort of legacy and infrastructure in this area prior to Occupy, and not necessarily all that much knowledge about some of those things like process. So a lot of us here were teaching ourselves and are still teaching ourselves some of those those ways and ideas that have come down from other parts of the movement. So,
Well, we have Kirk on line 4. Lovely Kirk. Where's the...
Oh, you just
no. We lost Kirk because you told me to hit speaker. That's sad.
Okay. Well, we do have a stack. Tristan's next on stack,
Okay,
so
we'll take
hopefully
stack.
Kirk will call us back.
Hopefully
Hopefully
Kirk will call us
Kirk will
back.
call
We
us
love
back.
Kirk. I love Kirk.
Point of digression. Just, I'm going to throw out there a few topic suggestions if anyone wants to do it, at some point. Why you occupy personally, perhaps your own tragic 99% story. Process and consensus. There's my appreciative inquiry questions here. The squirrel eviction or the foreclosures. And how some of the foreclosed homes have been turned into a commons. The role of the occupation of public space. What does this say? Oh, this Rolling Stone article by Matt Tibby. He's got a really good paragraph here. Yeah, we got... Call back. Oh, he's online.
Let's talk to Kirk. Kirk.
Hey.
Hey, Kirk.
Hey.
What's going on, buddy?
Just checking in. From Orlando. I don't know if Noam is back in Tampa yet, but...
Noam's here. Noam's with us.
He didn't even see me.
Hey, what's up, dude?
What's up, man?
You rocked it today, brother. You rocked it today.
Thank you.
What happened?
Oh, what happened? Well, let's see. Noam taught people that we can defend ourselves. Novel concept, isn't it, folks?
I went for a jaywalking ticket and immediately motioned. I said the plaintiff. I said that the plaintiff motions to dismiss the charges against Lou Levy, which is my real name, and the judge was just sort of, questioning me about, am I trying to play games? And I said, no, ma'am, I'm just here to find out who the plaintiff is. And basically what it comes down to is that she ruled on it. So she gave me standing. She basically didn't say you don't have standing to make a motion on behalf of the plaintiff. When we got into the conversation, she started saying, well, the state is the plaintiff. And I said, well, who's the state? And she just kind of stood there and didn't say anything. So I jumped in and I said, Jefferson says in the Declaration of Independence that states get their power through the consent of the governed.
No, just power, comrades. No, just power.
I think she understood it, but it kind of threw her for a loop. She's never seen anyone come in and, I told her, the first thing she said is, why? The first thing after I said the plaintiff motions, she said, why? I said, because I don't think I should be in here suing myself for something I did that didn't bother me myself. And she was like, she started going into things, and I said, I don't think you understand. I'm making this motion on behalf of the plaintiff. And then she started to understand what I was talking about. But she didn't say you don't have standing, you're not the plaintiff. She basically said you do have standing, and I'm going to basically deny your motion, and you can appeal it. So now I can appeal on behalf of the plaintiff, who is myself and him and her and him and you and all of us in here.
And me, and you.
And, for the denial of the motion. It was awesome.
Yeah.
That's quite a court case.
They should all be like that.
They should all.
We don't need lawyers. I had a lawyer who went in there and he begged to be taken off the case. because he did not want to play my game. And I wanted to play this game. You know, if you go in with a lawyer, they won't play that game because lawyers are bound by the court rules.
Lawyers are bound to protect the Constitution under their rules, not the actual rules of the Constitution itself.
It was great. We had a
fun.
lot of fun. A lot of fun. The officers were shaking in their shoes. They didn't know how to answer a lot of these questions. And the final ruling, this is just a jaywalking ticket, a $25 fine, but there was a lot of us packed in here. And rather than ruling, she said, I'll take it under advisement and make a ruling and send you the ruling in the mail. So she didn't, which to me sounded like, okay, I've got a great case here, because normally she would have said, you know, guilty or not guilty. I mean, I stood there and I said, I've got, 4 or 5 witnesses out there that are going to testify that the officers are lying. You know, and they were saying, they asked me about taking an oath, and I said no. And they were like, why? I said, because obviously an oath in here doesn't mean anything. Your officers took an oath and they lied.
Yeah, I had to bite my tongue in the courtroom. I was trying so hard to not just be like, you're lying! You're lying!
Right.
I was there! You're lying!
So rather than listening to all the witnesses,
We need to run this video real quick.
Okay.
Jeff needs to step out. But Kirk, are you coming to visit us soon?
I should be able to come probably, maybe in a few days, actually, once my dad comes in from Philadelphia.
Hi. Holler, man.
shout out to
I don't know if I gave you the info on that one, Nathan, but my father's coming into town to Orlando from Philly, and I was hoping to maybe bring him out to Occupy Tampa in the next few days, but he was not coming till Saturday, so the verdict's still out on that one.
All right, Kirk, I gotta let you go, man.
All right, brother.
All right, I love you, bro.
Loving you too, bro.
All right, man.
Points of affection.
That's points of affection. All right, we're gonna run the video of. We're actually gonna run a video of Buckhorn talking about the clean zone. We always love what he has to say.
Great question. My obligation as mayor and our obligation as a city is really twofold. First, it's to make sure that those who are coming here for the convention, the delegates, the staff, the nominee, have a safe, enjoyable, pleasant experience. I also have an equally important obligation, and that is to make sure that those who are coming here to offer a different opinion to what takes place inside the building have an opportunity to do that in a clean, safe, pleasurable environment. And so in order to accommodate those two, and they're not conflicting, I plan to enjoy democracy at the street level because it's important. To make sure that both of those two groups have an opportunity to share in the experience is what I have an obligation to do. And so as best we can, we are trying to manage those two somewhat competing challenges. The ordinance that we have proposed, regardless of what we call it, is designed to do exactly that. I want to make sure that the protesters, number one, know what the rules are well in advance. Number two, to the extent that we can facilitate as many people as want to come, irrespective of whether I agree with them or not, that's not my job, that they can have their opportunity to express themselves to the delegates, to the event itself, to the meeting. Now, we just can't have people running everywhere. So in order to do that, we've got to manage this. We've got to manage expectations. We're designing protest routes that will accommodate everybody who wants to protest. We're designing viewing areas where people can stand in proximity to the event, because the courts have said you have to give folks reasonable sight and distance to express themselves, and we are trying desperately to make sure that that happens. We want to make sure that they have a safe experience, both the delegates and those who choose to protest. And so based on other cities' experiences, whether it's cities with World Trade Organization meetings, with G8, with G20, with previous conventions, we know what's coming. And we also know the tools used to disrupt these things. And so everything that you have seen in those ordinances are based on real-world experiences from other cities. People laugh and they say, well, why are you banning squirt guns? That's pretty silly, Mayor. except when the squirt guns are filled with bodily fluids, to squirt all police officers. Everything that we have put in that ordinance, there's a reason for it. Now, the distance and the scope of the zone, you know, I'm willing to negotiate. The time limits, the reason we put time limits in there was to encourage more people and to facilitate more groups who want to have access to the viewing areas and the parade routes, not to limit it. I mean, that was the exact opposite. We wanted to make sure that all the groups that are here had an opportunity to move through and express themselves and not just have one group take up the entire time limit. So that was sort of, we didn't do a good job communicating that. And so that's why that ordinance is in place. I think it will make it safer for everybody. I think it will make for a more orderly convention. I think it will notify those that are coming here to cause problems, and they will be here. 99.9% of the good folks that will come here are law-abiding Americans who just want to express themselves, and we will accommodate their view. Those who are coming here to destroy and to disrupt and to cross that line, you are going to jail. Period. End of discussion. You are not going to tear up our downtown and destroy things and hurt our police officers just because you want to. And that also keeps all of the other folks safe as well, because I know the legitimate groups that are coming here, whether it's the teachers or whether the ACLU or SEIU, do not want to be infiltrated by these folks who are going to use them to provoke a police reaction.
We already took
So
steps.
that's why we're doing what we're doing.
They get on, yeah, it's,
We have people
City
still.
Council, I think we've got everything worked out.
Mics are on.
And hopefully council will pass it next week. But there will be a set of standards, and there will be an expectation of performance and behavior. Those who choose not to,
Double stacked. So that was Buck Horn talking about the clean zone and various safety precautions that need to be taken for the safety of police officers, because police and riot gear need a lot more safety than protesters. But that's my personal slant. I'm going to read the number off again. 813, if you want to talk to us, 813-977-6800. 813-977-6800. So I believe we have people
Yeah,
on
next
stack.
on stack is Tristan.
I just want to point out how incredibly condescending he sounded while talking to the person with the question. Told her it was, I think, a stupid question, and his entire face was condescending. Someone suggested on the Occupy Tampa website a while back that we have our own convention in town and ask for $50 million or so for them to support it, which I liked that idea. Yeah, that's the end of my stack on the clean zone anyway.
Okay. I'm next on stack. I wanted to point out that the measures that he's talking about are what are referred to by people in the security industry as security theater. I work in the security industry myself, and it's when you do little things that seem to maybe address some aspect of insecurity so that people feel like they're going through a security system, but they don't actually address aspects. For example, bottling up all of the protesters for a gigantic event like this in a very small physical area is a recipe for disaster, because anytime you get that many humans bottled up in one small area surrounded by armed cops, tensions are going to be running really high, as opposed to having people able to protest at lots of different areas around the city. You see what I'm saying? They're not really addressing the actual security concerns that come from having tons of humans together. They're creating an us versus them mentality between police and protesters from the very beginning, which is likely to end in violence, at least historically it has. So, like you were saying, Nate, it's very slanted towards one side of the power dynamic there. Zoe, I believe you're next on stack.
Yeah, I just want to say that I don't know how to quite top that video. Obviously, Buckhorn is lying, and he's very good at lying, and he should never be mayor of Tampa ever again. And that's my own personal opinion. I don't know, instead of protesting the RNC, I might be holding a picket outside his house, where hopefully there will not be a clean zone. Because we all know that clean zones are just plain old dirty politics, and there's nothing clean about them but more corruption and attacks against the First Amendment. And as he was saying, it's so true. How much security do a bunch of riot cops need? We're going to see the same exact thing if this clean zone goes through. This clean zone ordinance goes through. We're going to see the exact same thing that happened at Occupy Oakland, where there was a police riot. Basically, the police come in, they surround everyone, beat them up, tear gas them, pepper spray them, and then blame all the protesters for getting tear gas, pepper sprayed, and beaten up.
What I don't get is the laws that are already in existence. Why aren't they sufficient enough to control any kind of crime that they're expecting to have? Like, if someone breaks a window, is there a law that punishes someone for that? If someone hits a police officer, is there a law that would punish them for that? And so forth and so on. And it just seems absolutely ridiculous. The only thing I see this clean zone having a purpose for is to disarm the public from protecting themselves from rubber bullets, tear gas, or whatever else they have in store for us.
Kat, you're next.
Yeah, so I guess I see this clean zone thing as an attack on many fronts, but where I personally get the most, I guess, like, offended might be the word, is kind of the spiritual side of it and that attack, because, and to explain, and this can go into, you know, what I personally think that there are some elements to do with, you know, how Occupy started and what some of the issues are, but this clean zone thing, I mean, it really says, like he even said, you know, if you're a good American that's, you know, in this sort of idea of what is considered a good American, as opposed to, you know, if you're just some troublemaker and destroying things, and literally, I feel like he might be the troublemaker destroying things like ideas and beliefs and maybe certain changes and whatnot. But it's just like, seriously, like we live in a police kind of run state almost, to where, you know, policing ideas more so than maybe actual, maybe physical policing, even though that still occurs. But I guess what I'm trying to say is simply that our ideas get policed in a way that's like, you know, well, this is this sort of transcendence of what we think is good, and this is the only thing that won't get messed with. And even that might get messed with if it's assumed that there is some other intention that isn't in line with, you know, the way we all know our right-wing people love to think. So I yield, I guess.
Noam, you're next.
I didn't have anything to say, I'm sorry.
Oh, you asked to get on sec before. Then Tristan.
I just wanted to point out the at least equal necessity to protect the protesters from the police. You know, maybe someone would like to share the story of when the police sarcastically, or whatever you want to call it, harassed us and brought a mentally deranged woman to the site, where she flashed us and yelled at us, and the cops were just standing across the street with a big eating grin on their face. You know, there's, yeah. I mean, the police have a certain level of, I mean, you want to talk about privilege, have a huge degree of privilege when the public only sees them as these brave heroes, when there's all kinds of phenomena of police misconduct. Google Tampa police misconduct, if you like. You'll see a lot of interesting things. The blue wall of silence is a big issue. And the history of Occupy Tampa is filled with ridiculous accounts of police misconduct. You know, and this whole trend towards police militarization. And just this attitude towards protesters as if they were only a nuisance or something that, you know, the government shouldn't be supportive of. That's my comments on the clean zone.
Okay.
We have some pictures of some of our marches running right now. We had a excuse me, let me get the mic. We got some pictures of our marches running right now. Pretty cool pictures, if I do say so myself. We have a lot of numbers out.
That's from October 15th.
That's from October 15th. That's from a Day of Rage, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Day of Rage. We just had Day of Rage 2.0. That was fun as well. So, was anybody on this march?
I was.
You want to talk about it?
It was great.
Can we continue with Stack? I mean,
Yeah.
I think these
Want to
photos-
process.
Yeah, I think these photos are just here for vision.
So, we had Harry on stack.
Harry's on
Hasn't gotten
stack.
to speak yet.
I just wanted to add a little comment in regards to Mayor Bob Buckhorn's proposed clean zone ordinance. I think it smells like a bunch of horse patootie, and it needs to go flush down the toilet, because I think we, as peaceful demonstrators, my fellow friends, brothers, sisters, we have a dutiful right under the Constitution of the United States of America to speak out and to stand up and speak out for what's right. Our First Amendment. They pass this ordinance, we can kiss First Amendment to the ground.
Put myself on stack.
We have somebody on the line.
Okay.
Jake's on line 4. People we love.
Jake.
Hi, Jake.
Hello?
Hey, buddy.
What's going on, Jake?
Good afternoon, TV land.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. I was wondering if anyone would care to comment on the relevancy, with regards to the RNC of NDAA and the recent, what was dubbed the anti-Occupy bill, in which basically any event that's deemed of, air quotes, national significance is basically, there are some serious anti-protesting elements to that as well. And perhaps, I heard you talking about the Clean Zone. I thought perhaps you might have commented on that, what sort of relevance that might have to any efforts to voice your dissent against the RNC.
It's a good question. I'm sure we have people on stack that could comment on that. Okay. Well, you gonna be down later, Jake?
Jake can comment on that.
Does Jake want to comment on that?
Well, it's really tough to say how they're going to implement it. There's not a lot of precedent for it. I was just hoping to change the subject and open the floor. Sort of a bluff here.
Okay. Well, we have some people on stack. We'll talk about that. That's an interesting question.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, Jake.
Okay, I guess I was on stack next. To talk about, he was mentioning for a second, yeah, that is a huge problem. And I believe there's also a bill, I'm not sure if it's passed yet, that would make protesting of basically any sort within a certain distance of anyone that merits a Secret Service detail pretty strongly illegal. And the problem with those things, as well as, say, the Clean Zone and all other attempts like this to control protesting, one of the biggest problems you see with this is selective enforcement, where you don't see Tea Party protests subject to the same kind of brutal crackdowns as Occupy protests. You don't see the protesters that habitually harass people coming into and out of abortion clinics get into trouble because, well, they're standing on the public sidewalk and that's okay. Whereas on the other hand, you have occupiers arrested and hauled off to jail for standing on a public sidewalk while not yelling at or harassing anyone. So I wanted to point out that one of the biggest problems with creating, these so-called laws with teeth to deal with protesting or civil unrest or anything like that is the potential for selective enforcement. And again, what I mean by that is when the people who are charged with enforcing the law, so in this case people like the cops or the mayor or the sheriffs or the FBI, choose who to actually prosecute under this law. And they tend to do so based on their own biases and their own perceptions of who's a menace and who's actually just trying to get their voice heard. So, for example, if you look at the statistics, you're going to find that police officers tend to be more politically conservative than your statistically average American. So they're going to project those biases onto how and when they decide to make arrests, what level of force they decide to use, when they decide to let things slide, etc. So that's a huge problem, and laws like he was mentioning create additional problems of that type every time we give the cops more power in that sense. I yield. I think we have some calls.
Another call.
Yeah, we have a couple calls. Look at that. We're popular, guys. think you hung up on one of them. Okay.
No, just.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi, Russ.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm good.
What's up?
Oh, I'm on here. Okay, fine. I'm speaking as a concerned business owner who actually operates a business downtown Tampa. I'm expecting to be inside that secret service zone where for me to get into work, I have to go through a bunch of security. And does that mean I have to get my clients in there also? I'm going to be losing business around that time. And with all this gobs of money being thrown down at the city to maintain order and to upgrade and make everything pretty, do I get any compensation because of the loss of business?
I think it's an interesting point about the impact on businesses, the impact on the people who work in the area as well. We have some people on staff who I'm sure will love to discuss it.
And I'm not the only one. I've spoken with some of the other people that work in the area, have businesses down in the area. The county center is going to be closing for, I don't know why, 2 weeks. But there is a small cafe at the bottom. They're going to be closed for the same 2 weeks. They're out of business. They have rent to pay. There's another wonderful Cuban restaurant around the corner. They're wondering about business too because people can't get to us. It just sucks.
Yeah, that's very it's very pressing, honestly. The impact on businesses. We're going to take another call. We'll talk about that when we after the call. We'll get people back on stack. Okay. Who dis? Hello.
Hey, it's Bailey.
Hi, Bailey. How are you?
Great. I was actually on my way there and frantically couldn't find the place, but I'm live streaming now, so I was thinking, I'm not really sure who is all watching this, but I mean, just maybe as another point of conversation, we could talk about, or you guys, I guess, could talk about collectively, where you think Occupy Tampa is at this time, just because I don't really think that talking about the clean zone is really going to provide people with a good idea of, what we do, why we're doing it, maybe like what we're doing to try and spread the word and educate and attempt to change dialogue as an occupation, maybe, or why we're here. I guess I think Tristan said that, talk about why we are here as people, generally speaking.
The golden question.
Yeah, well, I mean, just so people get an idea, because I'm not sure who's watching, but I think that would be beneficial to anybody who wants to, hear what we're about, actually. So just a suggestion.
Yeah, I would agree, personally, but that's
okay,
a
well, I'm going to go and listen now, okay?
Okay, I'll be down at the park later.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.
Okay, so we have 3 people on stack. You are next.
One thing I wanted to say in relation to Buckhorn's saying that we want to keep the delegates safe, and just a couple more points on RNC. The delegates generally are bussed in and out. They rarely see the cities that they're delegates in. They're not going to impact the businesses, and they're really not the people who the police are protecting. So I just wanted to say that. And so if any businesses do get business, it's going to be from the protesters, not from the delegates. And they're not going to be inside that security zone. So I don't know who is going to be using those businesses at all.
Okay, Zoe's next on stack. All right, Tristan's next on stack.
In regards to what Bailey said about why I occupy, yeah, I kind of agree that clean zone topic is a little interesting, but I mean, it's only relevant in relation to why we want to protest in the first place and other things. So I've got a kind of, there's some Occu cards here, that talk about why a lot of people are protesting. My big thing is huge corporations. I mean, the reason I live in Tampa right now all started with an insurance company figured out a loophole in which to screw my father out of disability insurance, which led to a cascade of events that led to the bank foreclosing on our home, which led to the reason I live here. And, my mom was so ashamed of the foreclosure. She was so upset when I posted on Facebook that I wanted people to come occupy our home when it got foreclosed on. She was so embarrassed, as if she thinks it's her fault. And a lot of people think that. And I think we need to take pride in our poverty and that's part of what this whole thing is about. 15 minutes left. Wow.
You done? Harry's next on stack if you're done.
Harry's next on stack, and then we can talk about the garden that we've been working so hard on.
I just wanted to myself say, the reason why I occupy is because of the the tremendous amount of job loss that this economy has suffered, the foreclosure rate that's still going on to this day. A lot of people may say, oh, it's died down. No, it's still going on to this day. I don't think a mandatory health care, some of us don't have health care. Making it mandatory, I don't think it should be mandatory. I think, personally, I believe that it should be up to the sole individual person if they want health insurance or not. Some of us cannot afford it. Some of us only work 18 hours a week. I work weekends. I need more work. I can afford health insurance then, but is that going to happen now? No. I also want to bring up another thing, community gardening, garden project that a lot of us have worked so hard in building. Grand opening this Saturday. Noon, I believe, is the time on that. Yeah, the location is Voice of Freedom Park, Main Street, and Albany Avenue. 2101 Main Street, West Tampa. Occupy.
Okay, so are you done with your stack?
Yeah.
Kat, you were next on stack?
Yeah. So a few things I wanted to speak to. First, I wanted to mention, I don't know if anyone had thought about it, but with the DNC, I mean, as far as I understand, occupiers that are relevant or close to that area probably plan to protest there. Are there measures being taken to the same degree, or being at least looked into or whatever for the DNC as in relation to the RNC? I mean, because that's going to be that could be a very rowdy event too. Depending on how the occupiers over there examine how they want to protest there. But to answer the question, I mean, kind of in relation to what I was talking before, but with a bit more elaboration, why I occupy, and maybe even just that question is interesting to examine, because in the way that I tend to experience things is that we're very ego-based, to where it tends to come up, why we, in particularly as an individual, want to do something, and I think that's interesting that we're programmed on so many levels, culturally, economically, the way we environmentally, even the way we eat or do anything. And so we're programmed to think that we don't need to eat real food, or that we're drinking clean water, or that if we're not drinking clean water, then it doesn't matter. And all these variations, or that doing all kinds of drugs are all kinds of bad, or like doing or exhibiting any characteristics that are a bit out of the norm are maybe you're psychotic because you're out of the norm. I mean, all these things go through so many channels in which people are studied, observed, and that's sometimes you tend to feel like all you really are is some observation that at any point could be observed. And I don't know, I guess what I'm trying to say is that for me it's more of I take more spiritual offense to the way our culture is, and in that we tend to put ourselves in a sort of environment that tells us how to be, that tells us what is accepted and what isn't. And most of those things tend to not be how I feel spiritually. but anyway, so I yield.
I have a point of information about the DNC, which is going to be in Charlotte this year. Actually, the Charlotte City Council is working on a resolution that's going to, for one, ban camping in all public parks, but also to ban things like candles, projectiles, spray guns, any kind of breakable containers, aerosol containers, fireworks, smoke bombs, masks, scarves, body armor, helmets, and police scanners, which are normally allowed. Police radio frequency scanners are going to be banned, except for bio-use for law enforcement agencies during the convention. So it looks like they actually are implementing equally draconian measures there as they are here, which kind of points to the fact that both parties are really more the same than different, and both parties are more opposed to freedom than in support of freedom.
I guess we'll all have to make sure we're there.
Tristan, you're next on Stack?
Stack me. Am I ready for Stack?
You are next on Stack.
Does that mean right now?
Yes.
Before we go off the air, I just wanted to read a paragraph from this article. It's a fabulous article on Occupy. Anyone who wants to know what Occupy Wall Street protests are all about need only look at the way Bank of America does business. It comes down to this. These guys are some of the very biggest a-holes on earth. They lie, cheat, and steal as reflexively as addicts. They laugh at people who are suffering and don't have money. They pay themselves huge salaries with money stolen from old people and taxpayers. And on top of it all, they completely suck at banking. Yet the state won't let them go out of business no matter how much they deserve it, and it won't slap them in jail no matter what crimes they commit. This makes them not bankers or capitalists, but a class of person that there was never supposed to exist in America, royalty. If you want to see the whole article, just search for Bank of America Too Crooked to Fail. It's from Rolling Stone magazine. And I also wanted to mention that we've got a few foreclosure-related projects going on, and we've been kind of slacking on them lately, but I'd like to get them going again. I would personally like to do eviction defense, but if anyone's in foreclosure and wants to take an activist role in it, let us know.
Yeah, we have an open Stack, so.
Okay, on the foreclosure, and Tristan brought up the point before of people feeling shame, and that makes it very difficult to get people to put themselves in the position of having their home saved. And if you do want your home saved, let us know. We'll try to help.
Jeff wanted us to say something. What do you want us to say, Jeff?
General Assembly time.
We have General Assembly meetings every night at 7:30 at Voice of Freedom. We have direct action work groups going at least Monday and Friday, tentatively on Wednesday. We do gardening stuff on Sunday. There's a bunch of other work groups. We have a sign that has all of our times and stuff on it. So, yeah. And the website, occupytampa.org. A lot of information is posted there, also on our Facebook and Twitter. Do we have a Tumblr? Do we have something? I don't know.
What's our Twitter handle?
What's our Twitter handle? I don't know what that is.
Occupy Tampa.
Our Twitter handle is at Occupy Tampa. So look us up that way. That's cool too. Do we have anybody else on Stack?
Stack is clear.
Oh, Billy wants to say something. Oh. This is Billy. He is a deaf male in Occupy. Everybody is welcome to Occupy. It does not matter what your condition is. He expresses an interest to get rid of the clean zone and telling us not to be scared of the police or anybody with who's using intimidation tactics. Stand up for what's right. Woo. Police don't.
Understand. Occupy people want rights.
They don't understand that we want rights. That's all we want. Yay. The Occupy people know sign language. Occupy people are trying to improve at sign language and communication. This is true. I'm going to be taking ASL very soon to be able to do that very thing. He's expressing an interest for you to come to the camp and saying that he loves you, and that's it. So that's from Billy. We have a call. So let's take the call.
We have 5 minutes.
Hello, you're on the air.
Yeah, I think y'all need to get a job.
Yeah, in this economy, is there jobs?
Wait for Obama to give you welfare.
Get a germ! Get a germ!
We knew it was going to happen. It had to happen.
I have a point of information. Who needs a job when you have an occupation?
Hey! Point of information, a lot of us have jobs and or are full-time students. Just saying. I think it's something like 85% or something like that have jobs.
And also, some of us are independently wealthy 1%ers that just care about what's actually right.
Hey.
I work on the weekends, so I got during the week to be at my second job, Occupy Tampa.
I always say, why doesn't the white man just kick a job down then?
Point of information, the current president is not white.
The governor is.
We got 2.5 minutes. Yay, open discussion.
Rabble, rabble, rabble.
When is the gardening thing? Let's reiterate that.
Yeah, gardening.
This Saturday, April 28th, noon, Voice of Freedom Park, 2101 East Main Street.
West Main Street.
I mean, West Main Street, excuse me. West Main Street, not East. Sorry.
And also, Occupy the River is May 12th.
May Day, May Day.
Yeah, May Day. Mention May Day.
Details are on the website on Occupy the River. Also, May Day, May Day, May Day. We have a lot of stuff planned for May Day, so if you want to know, check the website or come talk to us down at the park. That's what we talk about at DA Work Group, what we're doing on May Day.
We're trying to shut down the whole system on May Day, basically. Striking, if you... what's that? Oh, yeah, no calling to action, so do what you want. Actually, that's the biggest thing, do what you want on May Day, which is...
I was just going to say another project that's been worked on is trying to get free wireless internet in the area of town that we're occupying, where it's kind of hard to come by internet access for a lot of people, and I think that's a really cool project. So it's important to remember that Occupy is evolving not just to be a protest movement, to be a constructive movement that advocates and does things like community gardening, community cleanups, giving people who can't afford internet otherwise access to the internet, education, and so on. So we're for things, not just against things. That's kind of cool.
As well, something that last time Occupy Florida met as a state, we kind of consented that all of the individual occupations around Florida as cities would try to feed people on May Day. So that's something to look out for too, and try to look out for information.
25 seconds.
25
seconds.
15 seconds.
May
Closing
Day.
comments?
May Day is also International Guerrilla Gardening Day, so you might want to occupy a vacant lot.
All right, we got 5 seconds. Let's get consensus to close the meeting. Yay! All right, join us some other time. That's it? We're done?